Good evening, everyone. Welcome to my loyal clients, loyal followers who have been engaged in this series where we discuss live how to find the right home equity line of credit in each state in America. So we're going state by state in this series, helping you find the right home equity line of credit in the second position. That's the specific product that we are focusing on. For those of you that are brand new, welcome. My name is Denzel Rodriguez, your personal finance geek of the 21st century. And we're not going to waste any time. We're going to dive right into the material. So if you're tuning in live and you're engaged and you participate, I have an exclusive offer just for those who attend these live streams in this series. I am offering my lifetime financial coaching program at a discount, taking $600 off if you pay in full. And this allows us to build a long-term relationship, map out your entire financial game plan for debt freedom, for investing, for saving, for early retirement planning, for ultimately financial freedom, and hitting all these other goals that you have in life in terms of how to fulfill your purpose and how to continue to walk in that pre-retirement, post-retirement. And on top of that, you get to be a huge blessing onto others when you decide, when you finally see the value of coaching and how impactful that is to your results. So that's something that I'm offering in this series, and the only way to get it is you have to be here live. The link that I provide in the chat will expire once I turn the live stream off. Okay, so I got that on the screen there. You can check out the details. We can have a lot of fun together. We can bless a lot of people, help a lot of people, and it just ultimately starts with you. So I'm only taking on a few more families before the year is over with that exclusive offer. And again, that's the link right there. With that being said, again, if you're brand new, ignore everything I just said. I rather build a relationship first. I rather you engage in my content. I rather you do the pregame work. Take the action items. There's a ton of money on the table right now in 2025 that you can be saving without having to increase your income or cut expenses. Those are great things to do, don't get me wrong. But there's so many other things that I cover in my YouTube channel as it pertains to stewardship that you could be recovering hundreds and thousands of dollars in cash flow by saving money on interest, by redirecting cash flow in the right location and creating a flow, a velocity flow of money where you're always either offsetting interests, removing interests, or earning interest. And money is never idle, never just sitting dead. What velocity does is it adds speed and efficiency to your finances if the math makes sense. It's not every time that the math is going to make sense, but when it does, we want to take full advantage of that, okay? We are looking at the state of Maryland in this session. So again, I'm going to be covering every single state in the United States, focusing on banks, credit unions that offer a home equity line of credit in the second position. And I'm walking you through my framework that I have here on the board. On the left-hand side of the board is my entire framework, which is a foolproof system. If you do every one of these things, of my action items, you are going to find the best home equity line of credit. And I took it a step further and said, I'm just going to do the research with you so that nobody can say, Denzel, I can't find a bank that offers a home equity line of credit. No one will ever say that again moving forward once I've covered all 50 states. Until then, we may still get those comments. And once I've completed all of the states, then that's going to go an entire playlist that you can view, and you can just skip to your state, go whichever one that helps you. On top of that, anytime we do get a comment, anytime you know someone that is struggling to find a HELOC, you can just share with them the playlist. And that playlist, I'm telling you, is going to be worth tens of thousands of dollars for free. Amazing. And that is my public service content to you, serve you at the highest level. With that being said, let's dive into this material. Let's not waste any time. Thank you for being here. Action items right here. Pay attention to these things. If you don't follow these things and you end up with a product that's not as good and you're wondering why velocity banking is not working too well, you didn't do the pregame work. All right. Credit score 720 or higher. DTI 30% or less. Preferably don't go above 45%. If you're above 40%, you're already flirting with danger. You want to keep it under that. LTV options, loan to value, 70 to 90% is typically what you will see with the banks. 95% to 100 is in more rare cases in terms of how much equity you can pull out of the home. Closing costs, we want to see 0 or low closing costs, say $500 or less. Intro rate, right now rates have decreased and we are entering, or we have been, in a declining interest rate environment. So intro rates are becoming more competitive. Banks are now rolling them out more and more. Certain states are more competitive than others, as you will see in this series. I can tell you just from 2 banks I found so far on the board here, Maryland came to play. We did Georgia yesterday. Georgia didn't come to really play. They weren't really competing at a high level with their banks. We really had to nitpick and find the right banks. But let me tell you, Maryland came to play. Okay, and you're gonna see why in a little bit. So intro rates, typically you will see 6 to 12 months, and in rarer cases, you'll see 3 to 5 years. The range, typical range right now is as low as 1.99% to around 5.99, or even higher than that, like 6.5%. In some rare cases, which we've seen in our series so far, we've seen 0% intro rate. But the period is short, 3 months, maybe 4 months. Really haven't seen anything above 6. One key detail, prime is currently at 7.25%. When it comes to interest rate calculation, there's only 3 ways. Prime, prime minus, prime plus. You want to avoid prime plus at all costs, because I'm going to show you all the banks in your state, state by state, that are offering prime minus or prime. The only way you get on the board, the only way a bank gets on the board is if it's going to be a prime, prime minus, and if I can't find a bank in your state that doesn't offer a prime or prime minus, then I go prime plus. But I really don't want to be more than 0.5%, 1%. When you start getting into prime 2, prime plus 2, prime plus 3, it's ridiculous, and then it just really doesn't make sense to do the strategy for a lot of people, unless you're somebody that has ridiculously high interest rate loans or credit cards, and a HELOC at 10% would still do a ton of damage. So context. But again, we're looking at the best of the best banks in America as it pertains to this specific product, home equity line of credit, second position. Draw period, you'll typically see 10 years. Some go as high as 20, that's more rare. The lowest is 5-year draw period. That is referring to how revolving the line of credit is, like how long it'll be revolving. It's very important for you to build a relationship. Please build a relationship, become a member, open up a checking account, open up a savings, move your money there before applying for the HELOC. Please, 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 please do that. Because when you don't, it will cost you thousands of dollars. And I'll share with you later why. No, I won't. I'll tell you right now. Basically, if you apply at a bank before you become a member, typically, this is general retail knowledge. You get 2 customers walk into a store. One is a member, one is not. Who gets better offers? Comment. You walk into a store, it's two customers. One is a member of that store, the other is not. Who is getting the better offer? Who will be offered anything for that matter? Who's going to be given discounts? Comment, let me know. We'll come back. Then mobile banking is critical to the strategy of velocity. We want to be able to increase our velocity. So when you have mobile banking functions, that means that this is a brick and mortar bank and it offers a checking account where it can be linked to the home equity line of credit, and you're able to transfer money back and forth instantaneously at any given moment, at any given time. Lastly is your payment calculation. Revolving is key. This just ensures that we are in fact applying for a home equity line of credit and not a home equity loan. Sometimes people get confused. Banks use those words interchangeably, so you always have to verify. Trust but verify. Once you understand payment calculation, it's revolving, you have two options. You're either going to have an interest-only HELOC or a principal and interest payment HELOC. If there is no difference to the interest rate that is offered or the intro rate that is offered on the product, then you're free to choose whichever one you want. I typically encourage my clients to get the principal and interest payment HELOC because that just forces pay down over time on the product. What you will typically see is when you're dealing with a bank, you're looking at the bank's website, they'll have the two different product options, maybe or maybe not. They'll have interest only, principal and interest. Sometimes what you'll typically see with the interest only HELOCs is they increase the prime margin. They increase the margin rate on top of prime versus principal and interest. Sometimes you're incentivized, you get prime minus or prime. And coming back to building a relationship, we have our answer. Of course, the member. Members only, yes. So, being that we're on the same page, if you apply, my friend, for a home equity line of credit, after Denzel just told you to not apply for the home equity line of credit, you get all excited, you talk to the bank, they hype you up, they're like, sure, come apply, da-da-da. But you didn't open up a checking account first, you didn't become a member. They're not going to tell you. But if there's an intro offer on the website for 6%, I'm telling you that's exclusively for members and people who do the action items. So let's say you apply, they're offering 6% intro rate, but you applied before becoming a member. Now you're being offered 6.7%, 6.5% intro rate. That 0.5%, thousands of dollars. Plus, you might miss out on a prime minus offer and you end up with a margin. Little details like that they don't disclose in the terms and people make mistakes. All right? It's unfortunate. I did a little research in advance of our session here. Just started, but we're probably going to fill this board up. I found two banks so far, Security Plus Federal Credit Union and Central Credit Union in the state of Maryland. And let me tell you, they are playing ball. So we have a 5.99% intro rate for 18 months. After the intro rate, it goes to prime, 80% LTV, mobile banking friendly, no closing costs, but with terms. What does that mean? On their website, if you do, as long as you do an advance of $10,000 out of the HELOC, they will cover the closing costs. I'm perfectly fine with that. What we don't know about this bank is if there's an annual fee attached. Most HELOCs typically do, some don't, but typically you'll see an annual fee attached to them. We don't know what the draw period is, not a big deal. You're not going to get every single detail directly off of the website. which is why after you do these action items and you do the research with me, you're actually going to call the bank to verify any information that we weren't able to get and to verify the information that's on their website, because banks will update their websites constantly, you know, over time, because they take products, they add, they remove, they add, back and forth. Next, you got Central Credit Union doing 2.49% intro rate for 12 months. Then it goes to prime minus 0.25%. So security, you'd be at 7.25. Central, you'd be at 7%. No closing costs, no terms attached, with a max credit line rate of 14%. It's pretty attractive. All right. So what I'm going to do now is show you what I search. Keep in mind, I don't live in the state of Maryland, so my Google search is not going to give me all of the banks in Maryland. It's going to give me the banks that pretty much do the most marketing, that pay the most in marketing. And what we want to typically do is avoid all of the sponsored banks. So when you Google search something, typically there's a sponsor right at the top. We're going to avoid those banks. And then you're going to scroll down and possibly even go to page 2. That's the gold. Once you get past sponsorships, you're going to see the gold. So I'm going to take you through exactly like where my eyes go, what I'm focusing on, and how we qualify these banks. And together, we're going to see what banks make it onto the board, which ones don't. We'll take our notes, we'll have some fun, and then we'll close out. Let's begin. I typed credit unions in Maryland that offer a home equity line of credit. Like I said, we're going to skip these banks. Sponsors, Citizens Bank, Fund, Figure, Consumer Advocate. We're going to skip all that. And we're going to come here where it says, here are some Maryland credit unions offering home equity line of credit. And we're just going to go one by one by one. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 banks. We'll start there. Then we'll even go further down just to see if we missed anybody. And we're going to do process of elimination. Okay. So let's start at the top. Tower Federal Credit Union. Based on what information they share on the website will determine whether they make it on the board or not. Understand that this bank might have things we don't know until you call. But because of this particular setting that we're having together, we're just going off what the website tells us. So what we know is Tower Federal Credit Union does offer a home equity line of credit in the second position. Interest-only payments. You can access the funds via check, transfer funds with online banking or our app. That's cool. Tap in the funds as often as you like, so it's definitely a revolving line of credit. Up to 100% qualified borrowers only, 100% LTV. Closing costs paid by Tower, cool. And unfortunately, that's it. So they don't give us too much. So whenever we want to pull a little bit more information, we can come over here to loan rates. Scroll, 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 and see if we can find, look, they do offer a personal line of credit as low as 13.65% if you're looking for a HELOC, but we're not focused on them right now. So this is interesting. They have what's called a line of credit adjustable rate. Problem is, I'm seeing this word, home equity loan. Okay, but then it's also here. Okay. So home equity line of credit up to 80% LTV. 6.75% rate. So that's prime minus 0.5%. So as long as you get a HELOC with Tower Federal, no more than 350 grand, you can be at a prime minus. If you do a 65% LTV with a credit line no higher than 45K, 450,000, also prime minus 0.5%. So no intro rate offered. And here's another cool thing. I just saw it. Available in the following states. So we got multiple states that we could play in with this particular product. So this is called a dream line of credit up to 80% LTV, 7.25%. So really, this is useless, right? You don't even want to look at the Dreamline renovation HELOC. It's like they're just selling it for no reason. Come over here to the line of credit adjustable rate. Now, we don't know what the draw period is. Doesn't exactly tell us. But based on the information that we have here, does Tower Federal Credit Union make it to the whiteboard? I'm going to say yes. And the reason why is one of the biggest things that I value most in my HELOC product is if it is a prime minus. That is so powerful to always be below everybody else in the marketplace in terms of your cost to borrow. It's like it doesn't matter what the season is, you're always in a competitive interest rate environment. So let's put them on the board. Let's do it. So we got Tower Federal Credit Union. And let me get these details. We'll write this out together. Let's do it. The main details. Right, 80% TV max. 350K credit limit. No intro rate. Prime minus 0.5%. So out the gate, we're going to be at 6.75%. And closing costs is between, oh, well, actually it says closing costs paid by Tower on members' behalf must be repaid if line of credit is closed. So no closing costs. Maryland is not playing. They are competing right now. So again, this bank does cover more than Maryland. All right, so just keep that in mind. That's why this series is important, because there's going to be states where when we search for banks, maybe it didn't pop up in South Carolina, this bank, but when I searched it for Maryland, it popped up. Maybe their headquarters is in Maryland, even though they cover South Carolina, let's just say, right? So just keep that in mind with this series. Even if you don't, live in a certain state, I would still encourage you to watch the different neighboring states around you to really find the best deal you possibly can. But let's not procrastinate as well. We don't want to just stay stuck. Right? It's hard to go wrong with the options that I'm presenting to you today. So 6.75% made it to the board. We like that. Here's the next bank, Security Plus Federal Credit Union. Look at this, 5.99, 18 months fixed, and borrow up to 100% LTV. But don't get fooled by the 100% LTV. Keep reading. So here are their home equity rates. That's a home equity loan. Don't get confused. Come over here, home equity line. That is your key word to ensure that you're looking at the right product. Home equity line of credit. As you can see, 80% LTV, 7.25%, prime plus 0. Go higher, that's going to cost you a point. Go even higher, it's going to cost you 3 points. That's not healthy. You don't want that. And you probably don't even get the promo rate. Member will pay closing costs if they pay off and close home equity line within 90 days. Okay, no big deal. Do the initial $10,000 transfer and don't pay it off in full within 90 days. Not a big deal. We like that. That's a solid bank. Very attractive. Call but verify. I mean, trust but verify by calling. Next bank, Central Credit Union. That's what this website looks like. Again, look how they wrote home equity line of credit loan, right? So it's constantly being used interchangeably, but as long as you see that word line, you're in the right place. So here we go. 2.49%, 12 months. Prime minus 0.25% afterwards. We likey. We likey. No closing costs. So the credit union will pay all initial closing costs. The homeowner is responsible for the cost of the home appraisal. So all you gotta do is pay for the appraisal. So we're gonna put no closing costs plus appraisal fee. So I'm just gonna write that on my board here so we understand that even though it says no closing costs, there is some third-party costs associated with it, and that would be the appraisal. Appraisal fee. What else we got here? Now, this is very interesting. Read this. Variable rate based on the prime rate and may adjust on a semi-annual basis. So what that basically means is you have a fixed variable home equity line of credit. It's fixed for 6 months. The rate will change every 6 months. That's actually quite nice because it's you have a little more stability. You know exactly what your rate's going to be for the next 6 months. It only changes twice a year. And so the rate doesn't jump like it did for a lot of people in 2022, 2023 when they were rocking with their variable rate HELOCs. Okay. So this changes slower. Your approval is subject to your credit worthiness. Anytime you see credit worthiness, just calculate 720 credit score in your head or higher. That's what credit worthiness really means, 720 or higher. And obviously verification of collateral, so you got to make sure you got the equity in the property. That makes sense. That's about it. We don't know what the DTI, requirement is. We don't know if there's an annual fee. We don't know that. So you would call and you would get that. Boom. That's the number. Call. Next bank on the board. Well, let's see if they make it to the board. Fed Financial Federal Credit Union. Home equity loan, skip. Home equity loan, skip. Home equity line. They always put home equity loan in front because that's what they want to sell you. Home equity line is always tucked away. Home equity line of credit, borrow up to pre-approved, blah, blah, blah. Manage your cash flow. Access up to 200,000, so that's their max. Variable rate, 15-year loan. Prime, 10-year draw. Okay. Look at that. Prime minus 0.51%. Ooh, that's attractive. That's attractive. And 90% LTV. Not bad at all. Do they make it to the board? You betcha. You betcha. Although this does have closing costs. So if you were comparing prime, Tower Federal Credit Union is more attractive. Because Tower Federal offers a higher credit limit and no closing costs. So Fed Financial Federal Credit Union. So the only thing they got going for them is the prime minus 5.1%, 90% LTV. Now that could mean the difference. Keep that in mind. That could mean the difference between you deciding between Tower Federal Credit Union and Fed Financial. If you're just looking at prime minus, let's say the amount of equity in your home is not that much. Well, Tower is only willing to go to 80% LTV, but Fed is willing to go to 90. So that extra 10% might be exactly what you need to get your credit line approved. So that may be the reason why you choose that. So the reason why everyone's going to choose a different bank at the end of the day is really based off of the circumstance. What exactly is the situation? All right. Let's continue our search for the best banks in Maryland. Here's another bank called MECU Credit Union. They offer a home equity line of credit, no minimum draw, no annual fee or closing costs. We likey, and we see 5.99, 12 months, then prime minus 0.25. 80% LTV. Looks like it is a 10-year draw. 12 months. Prime minus plus blah blah blah. Okay. So your rate will adjust quarterly. That's every 3 months. Credit approval, credit worthiness, just translate 720 or higher. No closing costs. Do they make it to the board? They sure do. They sure do. So we got MECU Credit Union. 5.99. 12 months. Then it's, what was it again? Prime minus 0.25. No closing costs. Mobile banking. We can clearly see that. Let's see. No minimum draw. No annual fee. Not bad. Next bank. Freedom Federal Credit Union. Merger with Atlantic Financial Federal Credit Union. Okay. Okay. Loan or line. What do we want? The line. Revolving line. Variable rate. 10-year draw. Cool. Can we pull more info? Additional 0.25 APR discount. Okay, but that says home equity loan. Home equity line. Disclosures, here we go. 7.75%, so that's prime plus. That immediately pretty much is a disqualifier at this point because of the banks that we have on the board. We're not exactly getting a lot of info here. Let's see if there's anything on the disclosure I could read. Annual percentage rate, 8.5%. Don't like that. 10-year draw, whatever. Yep. Not it. Not it. We're going to skip Freedom Financial Federal Credit Union. Did not make it to the whiteboard, even though they offer a home equity line of credit. Not qualified. Next, State Employees Credit Union, or SECU for short. I've had clients use this bank before in the past. Let's see what kind of offers they have today. 90% LTV, no fees, mobile banking, 15-year draw period. No initial until the first quarterly late. So what, 6.5% for 3 months, pretty much? Let's see what other kind of information we can find. Some closing costs. So North, South, Virginia, Georgia. Are they even in Maryland? This bank might not even be in Maryland, actually. Well, not as attractive. Now, I know SECU or Secu Bank. I've seen this bank get used. I want to say in Maryland, but definitely South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia. They'd already covered those states for sure. Got to be careful though, because sometimes banks do use the same names. So we don't know if this bank covers. It said it. It said it right here. Maryland. Full name, State Employees of Maryland. Okay, I could just be on the wrong website then. That could be the case. But we're gonna continue on because I didn't really see anything that attractive compared to what we already have. Next is Educational Systems Federal Credit Union. Let's see what we got. Let's see what we got. 95% LTV. Introductory rate 3.49% for the first 6 months, 7% afterwards. So that is a 0.25% reduction. Tell you, Maryland came to play. Closing costs will be paid by the credit union. Love it. So no closing costs. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. The max that the credit line will go up to is 12%, which is pretty attractive, honestly. That makes it to the whiteboard, folks. Do you agree or disagree? So that is educational systems FCU. And they want to give us 3.49%, but for 6 months with prime minus 0.25%, no closing costs, mobile banking friendly. Can't complain. With a max rate of 12%. Let me just keep reading to see if they tell us what the max credit line amount is. Now they did say 95% LTV, which is really cool. So again, that could be a game changer for somebody. So 95% LTV, 10-year draw. Next bank is Department of Commerce Federal Credit Union. Home equity loan and line of credit, zero closing costs. Man, Maryland is coming to play. Coming to play. Okay. As long as you do initial advance 10,000 or more, 90% LTV, up to 350K. Must be a member. Must be a member. So important. It's just prime though. And do we get an intro rate? Enjoy a low variable. Home equity, 10-year draw. Prime plus. Prime plus. Hold on. Where do I get prime zero though? Where do I get prime zero? They're telling me at 85 to 90% is prime plus 1. So I'm going to guess 80% is prime plus 0.25. But then it says rates as low as 7. Okay, so they haven't updated their... No. Effective 9/26/2025. We don't like that. Somebody made a typo. Because that's not prime. Prime is 7.25 right now. So if it was prime plus, it'd be 7.5%. Oh, here we go. Max 350, but still, we're not clear on how to get that prime flat. So do they deserve to come on the whiteboard? Comment. Let me know. We can go to the next bank. Let me know in the comment section. Does Department of Commerce Federal Credit Union make it to the whiteboard? Yes or no? Next bank is Labor Credit Union. $20,000. Maryland, DC. 95% low closing costs, interest only. Five-year adjustable HELOC. What's my rates? Prime rate. Blah, blah, blah. They haven't updated yet, so 7.25. Got to pay for the appraisal, closing costs. Non-refundable $250 processing fee. You know, this might disqualify them, all this cost that they're throwing on us. And that's not too attractive. 50,000 will result at 7.5%. Labor credit union is going to get a no. Not attractive, right? Because I got to pay all that closing costs, and then the rate is not looking attractive. Let's come back. So we just looked at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 banks. And on the whiteboard, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 banks so far from the 10. Now, let me see if there's any additional banks that we might have missed. So if it's in purple, that means I've already looked at them. Ba ba bong, ba bong. Security tower, yep. Let's go to page 2, see if we can find anything else. Arlington, Peak Federal. Ooh. Ooh. What's that say? What's that say? That's pretty attractive. They immediately make it to the board because you know why. Denzel likes prime minus. If you tempt me with prime minus, you might be doing business together. And no closing costs? And an intro rate? Sign me up. That might be the most attractive bank on the whiteboard. That might be the most attractive bank on the whiteboard. What was the name of this bank called? Peak. Peak. All right. Get me too excited. How you spell that? P-A-K-E, Federal Credit Union. So 5.5%, 12 months. Then prime minus 1%. That is gold. That would put you at 6.25% today. Well, you start at 5.5, but then you end up at 6.25. And if rates keep going down, you might end up around 5.75% in a year from now. Okay. 10-year draw. No closing. What else? What else? I think we're looking at either 80 to 85% LTV. So I'm going to round down, just say 80%. Let's see if there's any annual fee associated. There are no closing costs. I don't know. However, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So check this out. For my Delaware people and my Pennsylvania people, this bank did not pop up when we were searching Pennsylvania and we were searching Delaware. This bank didn't pop up. So one thing that I would appreciate you all do in this series that we're putting together, whenever we find a bank very attractive with a very, good offer, and they cover they cover 2 states, 3 states, 4 states. We've already covered Pennsylvania so far. I'm not sure if I did Delaware, I forgot. But I would go back to the Pennsylvania video and go ahead and just copy the link of this bank and make a comment on that other video. I would greatly appreciate that. So yeah, we haven't done Delaware, but I did do Pennsylvania. So for sure, when I do Delaware, I'm going to come back and definitely add this bank. But other than that, all right, let's see what else. There's something called Andrews, 350K. Equity line, 95%. Prime minus, here we go, man. Maryland. Coming to play. Play ball. 5.5% APY on a checking account? Crazy. That's pretty cool. They cover DC, Maryland, Virginia, New Jersey. Okay. Well, I'm not seeing an intro rate, but prime minus 0.5 is cool too. But I just found you. Oh no, that's home equity loan. Don't get confused. 350K max. Oh, look at that. Members First Federal Credit Union, that was getting a lot of hype. Some of our other states, 1.9 intro rate. So they cover Pennsylvania, Maryland, New Jersey only. So 1.996 months, then it goes to 7.5%, but technically that's 7.25 because that's prime. They just haven't updated their site yet. Because if we read a little bit more, opening members first, introduction will automatically terminate at the end of the 6 month. On expiration, the advertised regular rate applies to credit-worthy borrowers with property values equal to 80% LTV. The advertised regular line of credit rate is based on prime rates published in the Wall Street Journal. So Wall Street already posted 10.25%. So it's just that their website hasn't updated yet. So we did a good job. We did a good job. Now, nobody commented on my earlier question if, what was it, this bank? No, it was Department of Commerce. Do they make it on the board? 0 closing costs, prime, 0, 350K max, 90% LTV. But then they say prime plus 0.25 over here, so I'm gonna say no. This is good. So now we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 banks. Now for the hard part. Top picks. Number 1. Now that you've done the homework, you've done your action items, know exactly what you're looking for, we got opportunities on the table. Now we need to narrow the banks down and decide who are we going to do business with? Who are we going to work with? So we have 1, 2, and 3 banks that all offer prime minus 0.25%. MECU, Educational, and Central. Security is the only bank on the board that is at a prime rate, but has the longest intro rate period of 5.99%. The reason why somebody would pick this over all the other banks is mainly because of the intro rate at the 18 months, because if they did the math on their debts, maybe they can pay a significant amount of debt within that time frame. But what would overcome that offer is PEAK. PEAK is coming in at 5.5% for 12 months, then prime minus 1 percentage point. So at prime minus 1 percentage point would put me at 6.25. That's really close to 5.99 in the last 6 months of that intro rate period. I was at 5.5, 0.4%, so I would still be ahead with PEAK. Okay. Same LTV, mobile banking friendly, 10-year draw, no closing costs, no closing costs. So if the best bank that is on the board is just prime, but what beats security is you got prime minus 0.25, prime minus 0.25, prime minus 0.25, plus all three of these banks have intro rates. 2.49 for 12, 5.99 for 12, 3.49 for 12. So security gets wiped off the board. These banks are coming in at more attractive rates, even after the intro rate is done. I'm going to be at a lesser rate, where for 6 months you'll be lower, but then you jump to prime, you'll be at 7.25, where everybody else is at 7. All right. So now we look at which is the best bank of the three with prime minus 0.25. Well, Educational System Credit Union gives the shortest intro rate period at 3.49%, but one of the things that is pretty attractive is 95% LTV with a 12% max rate. Okay. Each of the three banks have no closing costs. Central Credit Union does have a third-party appraisal fee. We didn't see that with the other two sites. That doesn't mean it's not there. But we can keep them equal in terms of no closing costs within the bank internally. So that's all the same. Mobile banking is all the same. 10-year draw for the most part, all the same. I would say Central Credit Union is winning because of how much lower that intro rate is, 2.49%. So that bumps up on my personal calculation. As I start to narrow banks, I now cross off MECU and educational, even though those are solid banks. But Central is providing the most attractive offer. Now, what beats 2.49 for 12 months, prime minus 0.25? I don't know. What about prime minus 0.5%? So no intro rate. And then Fed Financial, no intro rate, prime minus 0.51%, 80 and 90% LTV, max credit line 350K. That starts to look a little more attractive than Central Credit Union from a long-term perspective. So if you're someone that is trying to get the lowest rate out the gate and create massive velocity and speed, and you're not carrying a lot of debt, it's not going to take you 7, 9 years, 5 years to get out of debt, maybe only 2 or 3 or less, you might like Central Credit Union because you get a competitive rate at the end of the day. It's never going to go above 14%. You're at 2.49% for 12 months. Not bad. Now, these prime minus 0.5s are cool as well, and relatively the max credit line is pretty high. But now you're left with PEAK, which is at a prime minus 1%. 10-year draw, no closing, 5.5% for 12 months. You kind of get the best of both worlds. You get an intro rate, and you get a super competitive low rate after the intro rate is complete. So for me, PEAK is number 1. Number two, I really, really like that 2.49 for 12 months. I can do a lot of damage. So I'm okay with missing out on 0.25%. But at the same time, I kind of want that prime minus 0.5. So here's what I do. When I talk to the banks, I try to negotiate competition. Hey, could you guys match this offer? Central Credit Union just offered me 2.49 for 12 months. Would you guys be able to offer an intro rate? Because we don't know. So I'm a little puzzled. It's tough. It's actually really tough to decide. But I definitely removed security, MECU, and educational. Those three are on my bottom list. Peak is at the top for sure. And then I'm wrestling with Central, Tower, and Fed. So I really like, Fed Financial, prime minus 0.51%, 90% LTV. If there's no closing costs and the max credit line is around that 350K, I'm probably going to jump on Fed, honestly. Probably going to jump on Fed. So I am wrestling between Fed, Tower, and Central. You really can't go wrong. The only reason why Central is keeping me is that 2.49 for 12 months. There's so much traction I can build. So when you're consolidating debt from high rates to low rates, and by the time the intro rate expires and now you're at prime minus 0.25, you've already created so much momentum compared to starting off at, say, prime minus 0.5, so 6.75%. Now you're taking down, paying off debt. So Central Credit Union is really good short term, like really good. And then Peak is also really good short and long, which is why they're on my top list. So those are my top two banks for the state of Maryland based on the research we've done. Now, obviously, again, I encourage you to do the research. I encourage you to trust the information, but go verify, go call these banks. If you're in that process right now, you're in the state of Maryland, you're looking for the best home equity line of credit in second position, do this work in advance. And then before you apply, let's do some coaching together. Let's go on a journey. Let's go on a 10, 20, 30-year run where it's not just about paying off debt, but it's about leveraging debt, creating cash flow, creating financial freedom, independence, retirement planning, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And let's have a ton of fun. Okay? Let's be a blessing on to others. Let's serve at the highest level. Let's be served at the highest level. Let's be willing to be a giver and also a receiver. Okay? With that being said, we'll close out here for the evening. God bless you. I look forward to seeing you on Monday. We're going to keep this series going. We're going to have some fun. Okay? Comment the state that you want me to cover. Okay? Because I'm just kind of bouncing right now. Honestly, I'm just kind of bouncing, covering different states, whichever comes to mind. And so I want to definitely accommodate those who are like, hey, I'm here. Hey, I'm here. Once we get to the big states, I'm going to have to do like a mini series for California, Texas, and Florida. I think those are like the biggest states that we're actually going to have to do a mini series. I'm going to have to do South Florida, Mid Florida, North Florida, California. I'll have to do Southern California, Northern California, and same thing like Mid California. That's what we'll most likely have to do. Anyways, God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And I look forward to seeing you soon again on Monday. That'll be the next live stream. Until then, bye now. Good night.